Hi, good morning, and welcome to Tosca Mom's assessment presentation. We will talk about how Tosca have dealt with the course goals for this period and hear her experiences. I am your host, Mark. For those who are curious, I am an AI overdub used to read Tosca's script. But first, I want to tell you about Tosca Mom. She is an AI business consultancy student at Hyper Island. She was a former head of partnerships in the Asia Pacific region in a digital advertising agency which has machine learning capabilities. She moved to Stockholm 3 years ago and had these years as her gap years in her career. She is also a mother to a toddler. Let's give a big hand to Tosca Mom.
Hi, thank you, Mark. When I first heard about the assessment presentation, I got really nervous and scared at the same time. And then I said, why not create a video and use an AI software to train my voice? What you are hearing now is actually not recorded, but rather a voice from a trained data. Regarding this presentation, it's quite hard to compress everything I've learned in 50 minutes, but I will try my best to explain it clearly.
I can totally relate to that. Tosca, can you tell me a background of your motivation for studying this program?
Thank you for that question. When I moved here in Stockholm 3 years ago, I really had a hard time looking for a job in tech because I didn't have any contacts. I had to start from zero, but I kept on submitting applications. While doing so, I did some nanny and cleaning jobs on the side, and then I saw this program. I said, wow, I think this is cool, and this might be a way for me to return to my beloved tech world. I consider myself to be a career person and I love challenges. I really want to make projects that have a big impact and helpful to society. Maybe that's why I am attracted to tech and AI.
Wow, what a story. Thank you for sharing that. So, how has your Hyper Island journey been?
It's been amazing. It has given me a foothold on where to start my career and introduced me to different learning styles.
Awesome. Can you tell me how you interpret the Knowledge Course Goal 3 that talks about your specialized knowledge of data collection, handling, and analysis?
Sure, we're in a digital economy where data is more valuable than ever. They even said that data is the new oil. The fundamental value of data is the result of what you actually do with it. I mentioned that I learned how to collect data from a survey that I made in class to create a class culture. From the qualified data, I quantified it using tallies and word correlation. I was also able to tap into Google Analytics, where I learned how to update and collect data using tracking links, tags, and parameters as well. I took the course and received the certificate. I did research during the Inca Gold project, which is pretty interesting, I should say. I was able to manage data by using RoboFlow to normalize and iterate the data set I have. It's a platform that transforms raw images into a trained computer vision without having to code. And RoboFlow is almost like TensorFlow but automated. I experimented and learned how to label using CVAT annotation tool. I use this for the chess sample dataset like you see here. I have learned how to analyze data from my previous work, from getting campaign reports. But projects I had in Hyper Island added a new dimension on how I can get more insights. An example of this is when I did the Inca Gold project, where we were given 2 weeks of research. And in the end, I was able to narrow down to possible locations. I was also introduced into graph databases, particularly Neo4j, wherein we discovered relationships between nodes. Using graph data, I am able to find relationships and patterns. I can tell you more about it. Nodes are the entities in the graph. Nodes can be tagged with labels representing their different roles in your domain. Like what we see here. This is an example of a node in a property, and this is called the relationship, which they share a connection with. And this is their relationship. This is good in data investigations and finding the main source of a data anomaly. I was lucky enough to be able to showcase what I know regarding visualization of data. Together with my team, we had a workshop in class to demonstrate how to visualize data using Google Data Studio, and even got a certification. On top of that, I have attended data-related lectures and seminars. My first takeaway from these seminars and lectures is the phrase they say, bad data in, bad data out. It means you cannot use all data just because you collected it. You should also know which ones are valuable and which ones to take out. Second is normalizing data is when you format it in a way that makes sense. Especially when you get data from different sources, you need to format it on how your program can understand it. The third thing to consider is the ethical use of data. We are lucky that Sweden is in EU and have GDPR, but there are more regulations that needs to be created. Fourth, let's not forget about big data. Right now, almost everything is tracked. I know that it is imperative to get insights and behaviors in order to predict than others. But I was thinking, are we mechanizing humans and humanizing machines? And lastly, we also need to make sure that the privacy won't be compromised by any data breaches. I hope I did not answer it quite long. Sorry, Mark.
Not at all. Wow, impressive immersion with the data. So tell me, in your opinion, by what criteria have you reached the course goal?
I think I have clearly reached this course goal. Because as you can see here in this bar graph, I am comparing my knowledge level now from what I had before coming to Hyper Island. Here you can see the difference and improvement I have now. I only knew some basic things about data from my previous work experience, from getting insights from the reports I get, and how to apply them in live digital advertising campaigns. And now I am here, knowledge-wise, I knew more than I expected. With all the information about data, I recommend that people should be more vigilant in sharing, posting, and be more sensitive in giving access to their data. I actually tell my friends who have none of this knowledge about it. I also want you to envision a future where everything is tracked. How would you feel? I think this is an ethical question that we should be reminded about a lot. Right now, I am taking the data scientist career track in DataCamp, which has courses in SQL, Python, and others. This is what I will try to finish before the second period ends. All in all, I think that I learned how to collect, manage, analyze, relate, and visualize data. Therefore, I believe that I have reached this course goal. I am certainly more aware and knowledgeable with regards to data, and I hope that I have expressed it enough.
Thank you for sharing what you have learned within this course goal. Now that we are done with K3, we will now proceed to K7, which is the knowledge and overview of current and future impact of digitization and AI on society and the individual. So tell me, Tosca, how did you interpret this course goal?
To put it simple, this goal for me is being able to recognize the impact of connectivity and living in a digitized era. It's learning about the history and innovations that led to what we have now, how it affects us, and the implications of emerging technologies in the future. It is also being aware of the negative consequences that might happen because of these advances. I just want to quickly note that what we are doing now is actually the digitization that is changing education.
I totally agree with you on that. Tell me, how have you engaged in this course goal?
I first want to quote one of my favorite philosophers, Heraclitus. He said that the only constant in life is change. I have attended a couple of seminars and lectures, and I noticed that there is a theme, change. In a lecture by Claudia Olson called Exponential Technologies, she discussed the fast-paced developments in artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, and synthetic biology, and how it already affects our lives and changing our markets, businesses, and societal functions. Another lecture that is close to my heart is when Arby Leonian came to our class and talked about healthcare, startups, and AI. I am amazed how AI is being applied to detect early stages of breast cancer using a camera that can be attached on a mobile phone. My grandma had breast cancer and I saw how she struggled to fight it. And now, knowing that technology and AI can figure out a way to detect it early on, it gave me more meaning and purpose to be in the tech industry. This is a change in how we detect and prevent illnesses, and in the medical industry as well, making it more accessible to less fortunate medical professionals.
Super interesting. I would love to hear more about these lectures. Are there others that stood out?
I would not really dwell on each lectures I have attended, but I want to share with you my takeaways in general about digitization and AI. I remember when I was a kid, maybe around 10 years old. My brother had a PC, a Pentium 3. We still had to connect to a modem and hear the beeps of the dial-up modem connecting to the internet. 20 years passed, and I do not have to sneak up at my brother's computer just to get access on the internet anymore. I'm even guessing that every person has at least one gadget which can be connected to the internet. And now there's 5G, and it is crazy how the Internet of Things work. I am amazed how fast the transition is. Just look at the cloud. Who would have thought that there would be a cloud to store data in? And who could have thought that just by typing words in this software, I would be able to have my voice spoken and created by an AI? The advancement of technology has fully changed the way we act and the way we think.
Amazing. I couldn't imagine myself being able to be developed using a dial-up connection. So how does the future of digitization and AI look for you?
The accessibility of information opened the doors to possibilities, inspired thinkers, and promoted innovation. With the emergence of these amazing people, the computing power of machines developed. It took us into greater heights. The old bits of zeros and ones are now being revolutionized by quantum computing. Now the possibilities are endless. I can only see a more dynamic and innovative future for us. In relation to AI, however, this had me thinking, will we go through another AI winter just like in the 1970s? We have so much knowledge and applied skills using different languages, but what if the computing power is not enough? Are we going through another dot-com bubble with AI now that there is a boom with weak AI? And maybe in 3 lifetimes from now, maybe there will even be a strong AI or a GI. But I guess the creation of our program is a testament to the growing demand of people who have AI knowledge. And there is more to learn and innovate.
Maybe I would have a face as well in the future, don't you think?
It's not impossible. Right now there are GNs or generative adversarial networks that could build you a face. Wink. Actually, you are an example of a GAN. It's just you are in a waveform. You are called MEIGN.
Great to know, and thank you for telling me more about myself. What are your thoughts on the current situation in digitization and AI with the pandemic?
The availability of information gave us more safety. The COVID-19 pandemic fast forwarded the advancements in different aspects. And that is the power of technology, to be able to adapt to change. Look at us, despite of the pandemic, we are still able to attend school and continue with our lives. In a McKinsey report, a new survey finds that responses to COVID-19 have speeded the adoption of digital technologies by several years. So the pandemic pushed the transitions of businesses and companies towards tech and data.
Super interesting. At least there is something to look forward to despite the pandemic. So let me ask you, by what criteria do you think have you passed this goal?
I think I did a lot of knowledge harvesting about digitization and AI from different media, and read articles from tech news sites aside from the lectures we have in school. Aside from that, I joined different organizations to know more about AI. I am now listed as a member of AI Stockholm, Women in AI, and Women in Tech to grow connections and have relationships with people who share the same interests as me. I got to have meetings with people in the industry and was able to share my thoughts and got some insights on how I can hone my skills. I am so grateful to them for connecting with me. In my thirst for knowledge, I was able to finish the elements of AI made by the University of Helsinki and got a certificate. I also finished the workshops made by AI Sweden called AI Crash Course. It is without a doubt that my knowledge about technology and AI has fully flourished. And by using the lessons, insights, and knowledge that I have acquired, I was able to help answer the project briefs in this period together with students across different programs in the Amphi Brief, Delta Airlines, and Volvo Hacksprint projects. Although I admit that I still have to learn, but I am proud of my progress so far. I will tell you more about how I applied my knowledge in these projects later on in the S5 course goal.
I am super thankful for this informative session, Tosca. Now we will talk about the last knowledge goal, which is K8, or the knowledge and overview of sustainability and climate challenges in business, public sector, and society at large. So, Tosca, how did you interpret this goal?
When I think of sustainability, I associate it with how individuals interact, leaving the least footprint as possible, being able to contribute to the cycle positively or at least improving the cycle. It is about making a difference, whether big or small, to help change people's lives and to address the global challenges we face, such as climate change and others.
Interesting. So, how did you engage with this goal?
The thing that really impacted me was when we had to read a couple of articles where we had to exchange our reflections in class. The article that really changed me was called "Why Do Solar Farms Kill Birds?" I agree that we have to develop technologies in renewable energy, but we should also consider the effects that it may lead to. In this article, it said that the migratory birds think that these solar farms are water, since the panels reflect, and the birds perceive them as water. What happens is they dive into it in a speed that when they realize that it isn't water, there is no turning back and eventually plummets into their death. It is said that around 140,000 birds die annually. The important thing to remember here is that whenever we try to develop solutions, we should always look at different angles of its effects. As much as we want to use renewable energy, biodiversity is as important. I watched David Attenborough's A Life on Our Planet documentary, and it showed how our environment has changed throughout the years. As I have mentioned, let's not forget how to improve the cycle. After following up with the article, I am happy that the AI Birdwatcher was developed to address this. The AI Birdwatcher was originally trained to detect drones, and eventually we proposed the algorithm for it to detect birds. They will study the avian behaviors to find a way to avoid their death.
Wow, I didn't really realize that. I agree that innovators should see a bigger picture whenever they create a solution.
Definitely, that's why in the future, maybe after finishing the program, I would like to be able to develop AI solutions that complements the existing technologies and improve or leave a lesser impact on the environment or the society. I have also attended lectures that talk about the transformations in the society. The power of connectivity, as we know, is very important now. 5G is already here, and some scientists say that it imposes health risks. They said that the ionizing radiation is dangerous because it can break chemical bonds and may lead to cancer. But other scientists say that the risk to humans is low. In my mind, maybe there should be a clarity. As much as we want faster connections, we should also investigate thoroughly on the effects it may create. It may not be with humans, but with other species as well. I have also read Pelterian's Essential AI Handbook for Leaders. It gave an easy to understand notes about AI addressed to leaders. Interestingly enough, in my opinion, I think leaders should be able to create regulations on how AI could be applied. In Iran, just recently, an assassination happened and they were suspecting an AI powered machine gun attached to a car was used. Since the shots were accurate and it did not hit the other passenger just centimeters away from the victim. Again, with the information being accessible, developing AIs without regulations can be harmful to society at large. It might not be now, but maybe in the near future.
Great insight, Tosca. You mentioned that you would like to develop solutions. Have you engaged in creating projects as well?
Yes, I did. I will talk about them relating to this course goal. In the Amphi brief, we had to figure out a way for managers and leaders to contact them for proactive work. We chose the managers working in tech with a focus on relieving their biases in recruitment because it affects the society and will improve the cycle in recruitment. During the Delta Airlines project, we mostly did research, and I learned that they use predictive maintenance to lower waste and cost. They also have implemented AI in their aircrafts to minimize fuel consumption and reduce carbon footprint. In the Volvo Hacksprint project, we had to figure out how to reduce waste in construction transportation. We proposed a cloud-based platform of an orchestra to give synchronicity with all the stakeholders.
Great job. I hope to see these projects soon. I'm so excited. Anyway, by what criteria do you think have you reached this course goal?
Great question. As I have said, the article, Why Do Solar Farms Kill Birds? Really affected me. I think this was a pivotal moment for me to define which path I want to take in relation to my career. Originally, I wanted to develop games that have AI, but now, after reading this article, it really changed and shaped me. I think the criteria I can share with you is how I was able to grow as an individual. I became aware of my environment and society, became more mindful of my actions, and became more passionate in what I am doing.
Thank you very much, Tosco. I agree that finding your passion is very important. The floor is now open for questions.